All right, YouTube says we're live, so welcome to Worldwide Stock Car Chat on Zoom, number 256. I'm your host, Greg Gadd. The gang's all here with Don and John and John and John and Lenny and Mike and Garth and Jim and Wayne and other people. Let's talk stock cars. Anybody got anything they want to show and or tell about? Now is the time to do that. Jim? You're gonna hold off until maybe a future thing. Okay.
Just to fill the gap, if you want.
He's officially raised his hand. Lenny, did you want to show something? Okay.
Yeah, I'll just show you this. We're introducing a new class, or a revised class to our raceway. It's called V8 Supercars, basically. You're probably familiar with them on the TV if you see it. But that's a 3D printed chassis with a slotted pod. And it's got scale electric motor in it and slotted running gear. The MJK wheels, the local company here, and a backform body that's the local bloke makes up as well. So that's meant to be a Mustang. But that was a copy, a replica of a Mustang that was invented for Australian racing because finished up being a bit of a cartoon type car. But yeah, just to fill in a gap there, if you like.
Very cool.
So we're introducing them next month.
The real cars are tube frame, aren't they?
Sorry?
The real cars are tube frame, aren't they?
Tube
frame. You know?
Yes.
Yes.
Tube frame. Yeah. Sorry.
So they're silhouette cars.
Yeah. They all basically run the same spec chassis. That one was an iteration of the previous V8 Supercar, what do we call them? Gen 2s. So they all ran a chassis with a certain height roll cage. They're meant to be a sedan class only, but Ford wanted to run the Mustang because they didn't have after the Falcon stopped being built here, they wanted to run the Mustang as a current production car.
Is it similar to the IMSA spec for that class? Because I mean, IMSA has a class for like Mustangs and BMW.
No.
Oh.
No, they run a 6-speed transaxle in the back. It's all tube frame. What do you call it? Plastic bodywork.
Yeah,
composite bodywork.
Oh,
they're more like Trans Am 2s, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they're a bit more technical than that as well because they got independent rear suspension. I think the Trans Am 2s run a top loader box, don't they, or something? Tremec box.
No. You're talking about original Trans Am. TA2, I think. I'm not positive on the class on it.
Yeah, we got TA2 here as well, but that's very much a secondary class over here.
Yeah.
Trans Am takes a lot more liberties with the body and what it looks like.
Yeah.
The Australian supercars look pretty close to stock.
Do they?
Yeah. Yeah, well, they've got to have opening doors and fully opening doors and all that sort of stuff, and headlights, tail lights, all the electrics have got to work.
Probably no two-door Camrys either.
But everything else is control. Chassis, the chassis control, transmission, brakes, suspension. They're all controlled.
So Lenny,
there's a company that supplies parts for GM cars and one that supplies parts for Ford.
The car that you had, did you have an interior in it? Sorry, I didn't see one.
No, that one hasn't got one yet. I'm trying to hunt up an interior tray for it. Further than that, I'll make one up. The one that comes supplied with it's for an angle winder, whereas these are inline. So right, so we're getting there with it slowly.
Thanks for sharing.
You've already seen one before. The other one I've showed was the Commodore with the Irwin colour scheme, the yellow and blue, which Greg got all excited about. So,
is your 3D printing guy printing your motor pods as well, Lenny?
No, we're using the slotted one as a standard one. Slotted 0.5 offset. But, no, it's interesting because we tried to get you all know Phil. Phil was going to do them, but then he had some health issues. So one of the lads sourced a local bloke he works with he's got no involvement in slot car racing, just likes 3D printing stuff. So he's doing a run of chassis for us at the moment, and we're going to introduce the class next month. So beauty of it is we've all got all these leftover bits that we can just bolt into the chassis and let them run.
Got more bodies in the pipeline as well.
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of rough ones here. There's a Camaro. Hasn't been mounted yet.
Oh
Just
yeah.
had a coat of paint put on it. And the wing, I'll show the Mustang again. These wing mounts are 3D printed as well. And just glue on a vac form wing. And
How thick is the vacuum form?
Sorry?
How thick is the vacuum form?
I think they're about 10th hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're
oh, sorry, I missed that again.
they're reasonable instead of
Yes,
like
yeah,
the
they're not
7,000
lightweight.
of an inch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can get them in all thicknesses. Pato does them as well. There's a Pato version of it as well. I haven't painted this one yet, but his are in PTEG, whereas the others are in polycarbonate. And we've got some earlier ones as well. It's a early Commodore, VT model Commodore, late 90s, early 2000s. And you probably know this is the GTO, Pontiac GTO, the Monaro
Yeah.
as well. These are old bodies I've just salvaged out. But,
How do you mount those on the chassis then, considering they're there?
I can show you that as well. There's a bare chassis here as well. He prints up body mounts. I'll see if I can get one off and show you. It's just a 90-degree.
A wall.
Just a 90-degree bracket, basically.
What do you do? Double-sided tape that to the inside of the shell?
Oh, yeah, or glue it.
All right.
It's just a...
Yeah. Angle bracket.
Yeah, I think you can see the little screw mounts there as well. So that just screws onto there, and you can glue it or double-sided tape it. I use water-based contact adhesive. That way you can wet it a bit again, and you've got a bit of play with it. You can play it around with it, get it centered up.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're doing that next month. But so they're in two different wheelbases because the early V8 supercars were longer because they were based on four-door sedans, whereas the current ones are based on the pony cars, like the Camaro and the Mustang, because we don't have a car industry here anymore.
Yeah.
Since 2017 was the last time we had a car built here. So, yeah, so we run the Mustangs and the Camaros, but we're not sure what's happening with the Camaro because they're out of production now, aren't they, as well? Stop making them in Canada. So there was a rumour there'd be a Cadillac, but who knows? General Motors is a specialist company over here now anyway. I don't really see any GM products, new GM products on the road. So I don't know how they're making it pay over here, but they are. Anyway, that's all my show and tell.
All done then?
Yep.
All right, thank you, sir. And Jim, are you ready?
I think so. I just want to say it's nice to be here with Worldwide Slot Car 3D Chat. And I bit the bullet. So I don't know why, but I decided to try this. And I was on the internet Sunday night, and I've been doing some research here and there. And of course, I know some experts, so obviously I didn't reach out to them. I just figured I'd do it on my own, make my own mistakes. So I saw this one. I saw the Bamboos seem to be very good printers for somebody that's never done it before. And Bamboo raised their prices 50%, pretty much the day before I was going to buy one. So I went to Creality, and they had a flash sale. And I got this printer delivered to my house for $185.
Oh man.
And I ordered it Sunday night, browsing on Sunday night, and it arrived today. So not bad. Took it out of the box, put it all together, went through, it does auto bed leveling, so I wouldn't know how to do it if it wasn't auto. So, doing the research, I knew this was pretty user friendly. So I figured for $185, it couldn't go too wrong. And so I started my first print. And the first print is actually a cable management for your, brake, the power brake and so on to keep them separate. I downloaded this off the internet somewhere. It doesn't quite work right because the holes are actually a little bit too big. So I'm going to have to work on it. But it turned out okay. I've got the webbing, which I don't know if that's normal or if I'm doing something wrong, but the print turned out fine. And decided to make a second print. And the wheels, I've got to work on the files. The printer did fine. And if you put these in the wheel, you really can't even see it. So this would work fine for me. I increased the size of the thickness of the wall, came out a little bit better. And, you can see a couple of imperfections there. I may go to a 5-spoke wheel because I like them better, and they're probably going to be easier to print because there's not as much intricate detail. But, I've been printing now for 3 hours. So I made a couple more wheels, and so I'm just working on that. So it was pretty easy, quite frankly. Doing a little bit of research. Took me about a half hour to put it together and fire it up. I have used I can't say I've used the slicers before, but I've played with them before, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. And I've done a bit of CAD work in Tinkercad, and I've created some files for some other people. So that part of it wasn't new to me, but the actual printing was. So I'm pretty pleased with the way it started, and we'll see how it goes for the price. The only problem they had with the printer is I ordered it with 2 spools of filament. And they shipped the filament from New Jersey, and they've shipped the printer from LA. So the filament won't get here until Monday or maybe Friday. But it did come with a small rolls to start with, just a test roll or what you want to call it. But that was kind of unfortunate for somebody else that wanted to do some printing, or all I got was the white filament. So I had to print with what came with the printer, and I'll be getting I ordered some black filament just for regular printing and stuff like that. So turned out okay, pretty happy. And speaking of 3D printing, and because you talked about the Trans Am, I'm going to be doing a review on these cars probably next week. So these are all 3D, and I have no desire to go this far into printing. It's going to just be for small stuff. But these cars are not out yet, but the Challenger's been sold in a test version. Got the Camaro, he's got the Mustang. Just the first test print came off the printer this week, and they're doing the Camry because for whatever reason the Trans Am decided, why don't we have Toyota in, and all they've got is a Camry. So they're running the Camry alongside the Mustang, the Camaro, and the Challenger. So we'll see how that goes. I think these cars will work pretty good. They're 3D printed chassis and with a motor pod and a body and so on. So
how do the bodies look as far as finish goes?
I don't have one yet. It's on the way along with my filament. Both of those are scheduled to be here Monday. The Challenger is the only one that's ready to go right now. And they sold 10 test kits on Slot Car Corner. I don't know if they're just going to market them strictly through Slot Car Corner. I'm not sure about that, but the production car should be out fairly soon, at least the Challenger. And you can see they're pretty well along with the Mustang and the Camaro. The Camry is probably going to be a little bit later. So it's from 3A, 3D. Some pretty good guys back. One of them's in California. One of them's back in North Carolina. I'm not sure where the third Amiga. It's 3A. It's 3 Amigos 3D. So it's a company that's building these products. They look pretty good.
Well, Jim, just remember to bring a flashlight as you go down that rabbit hole.
I've already, I've got the flashlight. I may need a brighter one though. I've been texting back and forth with Greg about this. I haven't called him yet, so I told you, you better change your phone number. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, he's going to be like Joe Rogan. He'll only have a phone number for like 2 days and then change it.
Yeah.
Well, at least
Jim's called for the 5th time in the last day, so
change to somebody without being interrupted and unable to interrupt anybody on a direct phone call with you. So that would be a nice change of pace.
I missed it. I was talking over you.
Yeah. I do want to address some of the things that you talked about. First off, those 3A 3D prints are obviously resin prints. You'll never get that kind of
No,
quality.
yeah. So that I just put that up just because we started talking about Trans Am. So.
Yep. No, I was answering Mike's question, who's probably worried about 3D printed quality, but it's resin, so there's no layer issues to worry about. It'll be just like any other white kit body, assuming they use an appropriate resin that's resilient enough for slot car uses. The other thing you mentioned is the webbing, you called it, is usually referred to as stringing, which can be for a number of reasons. One of the least known, or one of the trying to come at this the right way. It's not your fault, almost assuredly not your fault. One of the primary causes for excessive stringing like that, and there's always, not always, but there's usually a little bit of wispy stringing that's not an issue. That's excessive stringing that you had on that. So that is most likely either not appropriate settings in the slicer as far as nozzle temperature is concerned for the material that it is. Presumably that's PLA sample.
Yep.
You know, so the package of sample filament was labeled PLA. Did it have a temperature on the label?
You're supposed to read that stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, it's worth taking a look at. Generally speaking, though, PLA can be printed at just use the PLA settings in the slicer and you should be fine. But if it's some bizarre PLA with some additive for whatever reason, it might need to be printed colder or warmer. The other thing, I'll get your question in a moment, John, thank you, is it's not always nozzle temperature. A lot of people still believe that PLA is not hygroscopic, except that it is hygroscopic. And if the filament was not properly dried before putting into a presumably vacuum sealed packet, it's probably moisture affected. And what moisture in a filament does is it causes it to expand more rapidly in the hot end, because of course it's at boiling temperature in the hot end to melt plastic. So it extrudes way more than it should and doesn't stop extruding when the machine tells it to stop extruding. So it will have excessive stringing. So if you go online, I'm telling you this now, thank God, I'm the first person to talk to you about it. Because if you went online to any group and said, how do I stop the stringing? About 0 in 1,000 people will mention that the PLA could possibly be waterlogged. Except that that's a very common cause. You could adjust temperatures all day long and never get rid of the stringing. Pop that thing in a dehydrator for a few hours and it'll print clean and dry and almost no stringing whatsoever. So
I did notice when I went online to look at parts and things like that, they had the dehydrator units.
And that's becoming more common because people are realizing, but that's also because other filaments are more hygroscopic. Like if you start printing in PETG, that's more hygroscopic than PLA. If you print in nylon or a variety of other materials, they're really, really hygroscopic. Like you can't even do a print without keeping them in a dryer the whole time, as opposed to like PLA, just make sure it's dry before you start a print, or PETG, make sure it's dry before you start a print. But yeah, if you start really enjoying it and end up with a shelf or a box full of rolls of filament, you want to start looking into what's called a dry box, either just a sealed, an airtight container with desiccant to keep the material dry, or an actual dehydrator. I got a food dehydrator for like $100. Works great, holds like 4 spools. I can change the temperature, change the timing and everything. But it's got to be a forced air dehydrator of some sort. Don't waste any money on anything that doesn't circulate the air properly. Otherwise, you'll get uneven dehydrating and all kinds of
That's what I straighten my chassis in. My
you know
my
what? People use ovens, but most US ovens don't go down low enough to do PLA or PETG even, because you got it for Fahrenheit, it's got to be able to go down to 120, which is which is a hot day in Nevada, right? So if you're in certain climates, which is, why the disbelief that PLA is hygroscopic prevailed, is that there are lots of people in climates that are so low humidity that, if anything, the PLA is contributing humidity to their environment rather than absorbing it. But anyways, that's, the sample PLA is usually absolute garbage to begin with. So the fact that you got any kind of functional print out of it is success.
It was vacuum packed. Obviously, I have no idea how it's stored or everything, but it was vacuum packed.
And that's people often assume, well, because the vacuum is still a vacuum, that it must be dry because air hasn't gotten into it. But that's assuming it went into the package dry, which generally it doesn't. Most of that stuff is made just in absolute crazy quantities in a factory and then just spooled up and stuck in a vacuum package with no concern whatsoever for any kind of moisture content. Anywho, my soapbox.
Greg, I got a question for you. Does the hygroscopic ability of PED affect it after it's been printed?
Of course. That's the same kind of material. That's generally not a bad thing. For example, nylon is highly hygroscopic, so you got to keep it super dry to print it, but it actually gets stronger as it absorbs moisture from the environment.
Yeah, because it's kind of like putting what do you call it? Carbon in steel. It fills the voids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure we did that with RC parts back in the day. The nylon parts, we would boil them to put water in them, and so they're less brittle.
Yeah. And the same thing, I was just going to say, Greg, the same, I remember you talking about humidity influencing prints, but I was also going to mention that same thing happens in resin casting. In a high humidity environment, you've got to be really careful.
Yeah, John, you need to come here to cast. There's no water in this air.
Yeah, I know. And it's a double-edged sword because I want humidity in my, in one room so my guitars don't dry out, but I don't want humidity in the other room because I'm doing stuff.
Yeah, and we don't have a humidifier in this house. It's just humid enough in this region. And it was during my initial journey with 3D printing, I went through what most people would call the gauntlet of, failure and damage to the printer because of PLA that absorbed moisture from the environment. And at the time, everybody was like, no, it's not, it can't be moisture. It literally can't. They were saying it just cannot be that problem. There's some other problem that you haven't fixed. And this was before I was collecting, material to print with whenever I wanted, right? So I had like one spool of material to print with, and my wife bought me another one, and it printed fantastically. So I'm like, well, okay, hold on, there's something going on. If this prints fine and this doesn't, what's the difference? This one has been out in the air for a long time. So I made up a dry box and just left it in there. It was not technically a dehydrator, because people also say that you can't remove moisture from material with only desiccant in a dry box. That is also false. You can, in fact, remove moisture from material in a dry box with desiccant. It just takes longer, right?
Yeah, well, because of a fundamental law of physics, that everything travels from a high concentration to a low concentration.
Exactly. Why they thought it was not possible, I don't know, but that's what I heard over and over several years ago when I talked about this stuff. And I'm like, no. I took this out of the dry box a month later, and it printed perfectly fine with no problems whatsoever. So that was proof in my head. All I had to do from then on is keep everything in the dry box. And then, but then I realized, well, every time I open the dry box, it's not a dry box anymore. It has to become dry again after I close it. And I was swapping spools all the time to print a different color for some other print. So then now every single spool is in its own, Ziploc freezer bag, because they're less moisture penetration for the freezer versions, with desiccant in the bag. And then even then, I still have to occasionally pop them in the dehydrator, recharge the desiccant beads in the dehydrator, and all that jazz.
So anyway, all in all, I was pretty pleased.
Yeah, it's a good printer. It's a good price.
And it was being a photographer. I remember the first time I went in the dark room and put a picture in the developer, and all of a sudden, this image comes up. It was just like that, identical. I'm sitting there looking under the thing where the nozzle is, seeing where the print is, almost exactly the same way. And quite frankly, I hated darkroom work. I may hate printing, but it's the end result that I'm looking for.
Well, Jim, it's just like building a car. Like there's nothing like watching a car you've been working on go around the track for the first time.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not. I build them because I have to. I don't build them because I like.
I'll still go out and watch my printers do their thing. It's still just fun to watch for me, even though I'm intimately familiar with what's happening.
I do have one quick question about printing. When the issue came up where the filament's not here, but the printer is, I could not find a store. Sacramento's almost 2 million people in the metro area. I could not find a store that sold filament.
You don't have a micro
any idea why there's a reason for that?
I don't. There was a store in my area that carried filament. It was Fry's Electronics, but they've gone out of business since then.
Yeah, we had them too.
Yeah, you don't anymore.
No.
But do you have any micro centers?
No, not close.
They are one of the other few retail locations that carry filament in town.
Best Buy has it, but they were out. There's like 10 locations within 20 miles of me, and they were all out.
So hold on, Jim.
Nobody in the city I could find to buy a printer, or everything was online.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim. What about an art supply store? You mean like
they don't carry it.
They don't carry it there, really?
It's possible that like a Michaels or something would have 3D printing pens. Yeah, and then the filament sticks that go into those is the same stuff, except they're usually in like 10-inch lengths, just sticks, like welding sticks. And you don't want to be sitting there putting in individual sticks into your printer.
They did have that. I didn't know what it was, so it just wasn't. But I can't believe there's no 3D printing stores in a city this big.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it hasn't at this point. I'm not sure why it hasn't become more common in, Target and whatnot. But
I know that like we have specialty stores that were like I get my resin supplies at a specialty place, and they have 3D printed stuff as well because I mean their main business is the movie industry, so they do a lot of 3D printing.
Yeah, I haven't looked recently to see if there's any other retailers that carry filament, but I don't think there are, even specialty stores in this area, at least not in my area. But yeah, if you can find a micro center,
it's 100 miles away.
What you got, Mr. Weber?
I want to ask a question also. How much difference, Greg, is there between the various media, 3D printing media that are popular for what we're doing, PLA and I guess resin? I'm not sure what kind of resin. I'm sure there are various types of resin. How much difference is there with paint? The ones that will hold paint and some that don't, or do they all paint well? Or I guess it depends on which paint you're using. But
yeah, it's going to be the paint. I don't do a lot of painting, so I can't give you very specific, you can use this paint, but not this paint kind of things. I've never not had paint stick to a 3D print, but that's mainly because filament prints have the layers, right? Even if you go with the thinnest possible layer, there's still layers. So those layers hold on to paint real good. Even if it doesn't want to stick to the plastic, it'll stick to the print because of the layers. And then resin prints, pretty much every kind of resin I've ever seen will hold just about any kind of paint I've ever heard of.
Yeah, well, no, to your point, Greg, I mean, if it's anything like a resin cast, then it'll be fine. The only thing you have to worry about is the type of resin and the amount of flex agent you have in your paint.
Yeah, and if you were to print a flexible material on a filament printer, obviously if the paint is not similarly flexible, it'll just crack and chip off.
Okay, I understand also that these prints or even the resin castings have you use various chemicals or agents to remove what am I looking for here?
You mean
John?
as a release agent? Yeah.
Yeah, release agent,
Sure.
and I think 3D prints use some of that stuff too on the
No,
base plate or
no.
something like that.
No.
No, the only time you would have a release agent for a filament print, again, I'm saying filament print as opposed to a resin print. But pretty much the only time there's a release agent in any 3D printing I'm aware of is for the material to stick to the print bed itself.
Okay.
Once the print is complete, the print will release from the print bed without damaging the print bed. For example, you don't want to print PETG or TPU on a smooth PEI print bed, which is designed for PLA to be printed on, because it's those PETG and TPU stick so well to that PEI surface that it will literally pull the PEI off of the print bed when you remove the print, like fuck it up completely.
Okay.
So when people only have that print bed as an option for their machine or at the time, and they really, really want to print those materials, then they put something on the bed that won't prevent it from printing, but also will prevent it from damaging the bed when they remove the print. But other than that, I mean, that's only going to affect the surface that's actually touching the print bed, right? The rest of the print is not going to have any agents of any kind on it. It's just the material itself.
Okay. It seems like I read something somewhere that part of that stringing issue can be how rapidly the filament is pushed through the nozzle.
Yeah.
That has to do with what nozzle temperature, I guess it is, and how sensitive the filament is to heat.
Yep.
But
yeah. So that's why I said to Jim that the most common reason, or the most common explanation for the stringing that you're going to get is the nozzle temperature is too high, which is basically the same as the printer is printing slower than it could for the given nozzle temperature. So while the print head is just moving around rather than extruding, it's drooling the print material just from gravity, right? Gravity's still going to pull molten plastic out of there. But generally, if the temperature is correct for a material, it'll be able to push material out without gravity taking over right away. So when it's over here and it prints over here, and then it stops and lifts up and moves over here and prints over here, that time is so short that it doesn't have time to drool from gravity unless the temperature is way too high or the material is waterlogged, like I said.
Okay, so one other thing, I think, so would you call that feed rate? The
extrusion rate, a feed rate, sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Because your feed rate, your extrusion rate, extrusion speed, feed rate, whatever, pretty much the same, so we're on the same page, is directly correlated to the temperature of the nozzle, right?
Okay,
if your nozzle temperature is low and you try to feed fast, it's not going to be able to push out the filament fast enough, so it's going to have under extrusion. If your nozzle is too hot and you're not feeding fast enough, then you're going to have over extrusion because of the drooling situation. So that's why printer profiles are so important in a printer slicing program, to make sure that your feed rates and your temperatures are matching up so that you minimize that effect. It's never completely eliminated. Like even the driest filament and the best print profile will still have a little wisp here and there. It's just no big deal.
Okay. That's
all right. I think we can stop talking about 3D printing. Did you want to do a show and tell, John? Or did you just have questions?
Oh, yeah, I can do a little one.
Yeah, go ahead.
One, it'll be quick. Quick. This is a Ferrari. I think it's a slush print. Ferrari 1955 Ferrari 121 LM, and I just got the little. It's not going to do well. got a little windscreen put on there. And that's just taken from, some clear plastic packaging that was thrown away. And I used canopy glue to put it on, and it's pretty strong. I don't know how long it's going to be there, but anyway, since the picture is so bad, I'll check out. There we go. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Good looking car. All right, anybody else want to do show and tell? Otherwise, we'll move right along as we normally do to Club Corner. If you got some past, present, or future racing you want to talk about, raise your virtual hand. Lenny and Mike are raring to go. All right, Mike got his hand up first. Go ahead, Mike. Trying to unmute. Oh, nope, my finger's not working. Just narrating for him. Oh, nope, there it is. Damn it, my finger ain't working again. Oh, this stupid machine. I hate this. You guys go ahead without me.
You've heard this too many times.
You should have had a pop-up that said unmute yourself. I'm trying to help, dude.
Yeah.
Greg is the Senor Wences of the slot car chat. That's pretty funny. I'm just glad you know who Senor Wences was.
It's been a while. He had like a little suit and tie below his hand too, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's the only man I've ever seen that could make his hand smoke a cigarette.
Okay, my screen is not reacting. Oh, there it is. I got it now. Got it. God.
Oh man, get those cuticles done.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay.
Why don't you buy a computer, that you can use?
All right, there we go. Take it away.
Garth, you definitely don't like computers on the track, but you like them off the track. Okay, I had 2 races. Just Joel and I raced this weekend. I got the videos up already for all 2 or 3 people that want to see them. But it was a pretty good time. We did GT3 cars. I did Carreras in the first race, and Scale Extric in the second race. And I gave Joel the fastest car, and for the first time, he beat me in qualifying when we had the Carrera ones. And just when I went to start the race, I realized that the front wheels on my Ferrari weren't turning, which is probably why I didn't get the fastest qualifying time. So I quick fixed that. It was the wheels were touching in the wheels just a little bit. So I fixed that. And as you can see, I sort of went to town on Joel. He's still flying off the track a little bit, but it was a lot closer than it had been in the past. Once I really hope he gets it together to be there, because it's just too easy. And I definitely had a slower car in the first place from the lap times that I did it, but I still took them. But it was a good time anyway, and you know how that goes. I wasn't supposed to be racing this weekend. I was supposed to be camping, but last week after the chat, I got this terrible cold cough thing that was just awful. So we didn't go camping, and Liz had it too. So it was pretty bad, but it was a good time, and I'm getting a little bit better with the. We didn't have any problems with the race management system. I still got to figure out why. And in the first race, I had a little problem with the pacer cars where I had to adjust the speeds during the race, which is no big deal. You do it once or twice, but it still doesn't. There's some reason that it doesn't stay within the parameters of the lap time that you insert, and I don't know what I'm doing or what you have to do to try and get it to be consistent right off the bat, because I can set the numbers for the pacer cars, and it doesn't adhere to it. It'll suddenly start dropping off every lap, And then after a while, after you've run them for a while, they sort of level off and then seem to stay within the parameters. But why don't do it before I adjust them in the middle of the race? I don't know. The second race, I believe they went okay. I don't think there was any problem. But the first race I had it was going so slow that it wouldn't make it up the hill on the back part of the course. So, but other than that, we had no problems with, well, that and the race manager idiot who forgets to do things like turn on the track call or take the practice or the qualifying off and that kind of stuff. Once we replace that nut behind the wheel, we'll be okay. But so far, it worked pretty well, and I'm pretty pleased. I would like to find some way to get the number of damage of D slots, but I haven't been able to find that yet. It's still somewhere in the software that I haven't found yet. And I'm trying to do a little bit of change in the dashboard. I know you can do that. So I'll just play around with it for a while and see what happens. But anyway, we had a great time. So
like just keeping track of how many track calls?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for,
information.
Yeah, so that we know, how much we're improving, how much we're not. Because we did have that in RCS 64. You could tell how many damage points there were there.
I mean,
I actually preferred the way the damage works in RCS 64. With this one, the only way you can do it is lengthen the time period between when it does the track call and shuts off. You can't change that, so that's a good thing. But
or institute a stop and go penalty.
Yeah, but with Joel having as many offs as he have, that's like, it's not worth it. There, the 5 to whatever we decide penalty is more than enough to penalize him. If we had, if we had very few offs, then it would be a bigger deal. Then you could do it that way. And there is something to be said for, doing as you do with crash and burn, because when you're off, you're done. But there you have the 1 minute thing, and then you have to put them back on. It's like, when you're doing digital, you can't really do that very well.
Well, and that kind of thing is, and even the penalty, stop and go penalty is really primarily for racing where the racers are crashing a lot less, obviously, but also the reason they're crashing is because they are driving recklessly. Not that they're poor drivers or that they just overcook a turn, but that they're like deliberately, consciously doing things that cause problems. Those are what you would use those penalties for. So in your situation, just keeping track of how many times each person triggers a track call is all you need to just kind of say, hey, you need to work on that a little bit. But I haven't specifically looked for it either, but I don't think I've ever seen a column for number of track calls. Like all the columns are there, right? You can just scroll sideways until the cows come home to see all the columns of data. I don't think it's there.
Well, I vaguely remember, and I haven't looked at it recently. So, this is, believe me, I was in no condition to look at anything for the last week.
There's probably a column that says track call, and so it indicates who triggered it, right? But I don't think it cares after that, right? The track call, okay, again, track call, okay, it's not tallying the track calls.
Right. And you don't see it in the statistics as you would in RCS 64.
Yeah, and so if it's not something that he's tracking in his database, then you're not gonna be able to make it show in the results.
But
so
anyway, I would.
That might be something he could add fairly easily, though. I mean, that sounds like something he could add. But you'd need to hop on the PC Lab Counter forum and say, hey, can you add this track call tallying?
Yeah.
option.
Well, and I would, as I said before, I prefer the RCS 6 where you would have a certain number of track calls, and then you have to visit the pits or your laps don't count. So that means that, okay, I know I've hit that number. And that way you could also vary it for different people depending upon their ability. It's fine. Chris from on YouTube, the German guy, talks about levels of driving ability, and if you're gold, bronze, or silver or platinum, how he judges by that, and you're only able to drive certain cars if you can read that ability. I don't have the freedom of enough people that I could get here that wouldn't get too frustrated. So I have to cater to my audience. So as long as they show up and do that, that's fine. I got someone to race with then. So
I think that would probably be more of an ask than Guy is willing to do. Giving people different numbers of tallies before they have to do a penalty or something. That would probably be, he would probably say no. But he just just make the number go up every time somebody triggers a test, and then put it in the results. Maybe he'll add that. I don't know. He doesn't seem to care one whit for trying to make it easier for me to do IMSA crash and burn racing. So
yeah.
If you can't
anyway
want with what it's got, then don't assume that you'll ever be able to.
Right. Yeah. As long as like I said, if I got a couple guys to race, man, I was going into withdrawal after 3 weeks off.
Feel that.
So I got more of my fix.
Yep.
All right. That's all for me. Thanks.
Good stuff, sir. All right, Lenny, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just getting my share up. There it is. Okay, so we had a few races during the week. On last Saturday, we ventured out to War Raceway out at this beautiful Paraka in Adelaide. They were running a 24 scale race for classic GTs and sports cars. So I got a message from one of my guys that races with me regularly, Norm. He said, "Do you want to have a race?" I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." So that was Thursday afternoon. And then we worked out what we were going to do by Friday. And then Saturday we got there just about an hour and a half before the race and mucked around, and we decided to run on this one. We had a Porsche Carrera 6 or this. These are 24 scale hard body with a MJK chassis. The local.
Sorry, Lenny, whose body is that? Sorry.
Oh, I don't know. It's a 24 scale kit body of some sort, I think. I was very much the arrive and drive guy for this race. Norm did all the setup, and it's his car. So yeah, so I think it's some sort of kit body. It's hard. It's a hard body, hard plastic kit body. That's all I can tell you on that. But as you can see, it's a Ferrari GTO. It's missing the headlight covers, I noticed just then, and some detail in the wheels. But they allow that sort of stuff at War Raceway. So yeah, so it was basically a 2-hour race. It was a 6-lane race, and you 10-minute brackets on each lane, and you go through twice. So it's basically, as I said, a 2-hour race. That's the car we chose to use. We had a choice of this or a Carrera 6 Porsche body, but this one seemed to handle the best. The track was a bit slippery, so we decided to go for a narrower car, give it a bit more bite in the corners, and it worked quite well. It wasn't outright. It wasn't going to win the race, but it's the best we could do. And there's the results. Well, what's it doing? No, not yet. Go away. There it is. Yeah, so no, that's not it. Sorry, I've got the wrong screen there. Let me scroll through. There it is. As you can see, Team Slag won it. Slag standing for Steve L and Andrew G. I won't give you their last names on the internet. They ran a pretty good race. Steve owned the car. Andrew's his mate, and Andrew's sort of coming up. He's just basically started out about a year or so ago, and he's still learning how to drive and all the different types of cars that we got. Team Bob finished second. I'll just go back. Team Slag had a Porsche Carrera 6, and Team Bob had a Ford GT40. Team Foy was 3 young fellas. Foy stands for Fountain of Youth, and they finished third. It was a very close result there. Over 2 hours of racing. It's only got 3 laps or 2.5 laps in it overall. They ran with 3 drivers. The other 2 ran with 2 drivers. And then Team Spitfire was us, and we managed to finish 4th out of all that, given the time frame we gave ourselves to organise the car and everything. I was pretty happy with that result. We won a few brackets along the way. And Team Reedy, they've just started racing with us. It's a father and son team. They've just started racing with us, and they're doing pretty well. But they struggled a little bit with the car they had. Team War was the home team, but they had some reliability problems. And Team Lawmen were a couple of ex-police service guys, I think. I know one of them was a policeman. And they sort of were off the pace, basically. They just weren't going to be in it. But they finished just the same. It was a pretty good night overall. I was pretty happy with our result. So, yeah. So I need to get back to where I was before. I did a couple of videos. No, I didn't. Norm did. All the photography is Norm or Andrew G. So that's a snippet of the day section on the track. Norm didn't pan around very much. He was marshalling at the same time, so he was obviously focusing on his corner. Get an overall view of the track. There's no sound, I don't think.
This track. Wow.
Yeah. I should take some more photos. I always forget to take photos, so I'll start doing that a bit more regularly. So there's the day section. Just about done. Oh, the speaker's off. That's why there's no sound. I'll go through to the next one. There's the night section. That gives you a bit of an idea. The cars have all got their own lights in them and everything. There's the track call there. Can't miss that one. That was the car that finished third.
Lenny, did you find the darkness slowed anybody down?
Well, it didn't slow me down. I set my fastest laps in the dark. Maybe I should race in the dark all the time.
Very good. Or just wear sunglasses if it makes you faster.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'll get some, I don't know whether anybody knows Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or not. I'll get some peril-sensitive sunglasses. No, nobody knows it. Okay.
No.
But, yeah, that's pretty well it. Oh, hang on. No, I've got some more to talk about. Then on Tuesday night, we came back to my place and we ran one of our 36-minute one-car races. Once again, no photos, only score sheets. And I've got these all out of order. No. That one. Okay, so yeah, we ran a 36-minute race for Group C cars. So basically, we ran through three 12-minute races, one after the other, but ran it in 3 sections. Just had a break between each one, so I could calculate the scores, and then we got back into it again. Overall, once again, young Andrew won it at a canter. He was using a Group C, a slotted Jag, the latest one with the long wheelbase, what they're called, the XJ10s, XJR10. And I finished second. I had a car swap partway through the first heat, the first cycle, because the braid broke off, wore out, and I wasn't getting full power on that. So I was running a pair of 962 Porsches. Then Steve finished third, right on my clacker there, 0.3 of a lap. And then Ian, once again, not far behind. He was just over a lap behind me. Jeff he used to be the Gun Group C driver. He had a pretty horrible night. Jason was having a few problems. young George did pretty well, I thought, overall. This is the overall score. I'll get to the handicap shortly. I think I've told you before, George is sight impaired. He's only got about 50% sight, even less than that, I think. But he can see that he can make out the car and he can drive it. Did a pretty good time, really, considering 6.8 for his best lap. Whereas the best one was, I think it was Jeff, Ian, 6.4. So Tim, one of our new guys, just started racing with us. He did pretty well. Callum, one of our regulars. Jack, his son, and then Andrew and Claude. Claude's fairly new to it. Last time he raced the slot car was back in the 60s. So he's sort of slowly coming back into it. And I'll have to jump through a few more. Sorry about that, guys. There's the handicap scores. I won't try and explain to you how we do it because I know in my head, but I can't explain it very well. But basically what happens is very quickly, I find the best score for the last 3 races if they've got a score. And then that goes into this column here. And then this is for a 12-minute race, rather. And then I try to work out the lap differences between the fastest guy, which was Ian for this one. He had 106 laps. And the slowest guy was Claude. He got, how many bonus laps did he get? He got 39 bonus laps. So I then multiply it by 3 to get the 36 minutes. And then we work out the bonus laps that they get added in after at the end of the race. And then we get the total scores over it. In the end, Andrew G won it. So he's had a pretty good week, really. He's won a race outright and he's won another one on handicap in the last week. Claude finished second in handicap. And then George was third. So those 3 really improved over the last couple of months. So that's why they won it fairly handsomely with the scores. There's the overall the handicap scores there. Then Steve got up. Steve's improved a little bit as well, but not quite as much as the others. But he's one of our better drivers. He was cracking, averaging over 100 for 12 minutes. And then the 2 new guys came in fifth and sixth. Then Andrew.
Calling you from American Benefits on a recorded line. How are you doing today?
Oh. Then me, Ian, Jason, Jeff, and Callum in that order. So that was basically it. Just one last thing I want to show you. No, it's not it. There. I was down the airport dropping the missus off to go up and visit her daughter and her family the other day. And I walked past this seating arrangement and I couldn't help thinking, that looks like a slot car track to me. Yeah. Don't know whether you can see the detail in it or not. But when you look at it, it looks like it's got slot car grooves in it. So I thought that was rather amusing as I was going through the airport. I thought I'd show it to you. That's it for me. I'll get out your way.
Lenny, maybe they got that out of a sushi restaurant. Instead of boats, they have cars going around.
Yeah, that's it. That's just out in the plaza between the car park and the airport terminal. For people to sit on.
I didn't have time to count the lanes. Was that 6 or 8?
That's 8, I believe. Yeah, I think it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's only a 7-laner.
That's interesting. All right, thank you for sharing, sir. And Dewan is recovering from his full knee replacement surgery and has decided to join in and put his hand up. Assuming that was not accidental, go ahead, Dewan.
Okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm a very novice using my phone. Obviously, I'm not going to do my video because you don't want to see me from my recovery room bed. But on Club Coder, we had an exciting weekend, I thought, over at Nigel Stone's Raceway in Sherman Oaks, California. And for the Fire Out Club, we had 2 races. The first race was the Ninko, and the second was the Flies. The Flies were completely recategorized. It was a phenomenal race with those things. We had 21 racers. I don't know how to navigate using my phone and staying on the Zoom, so I'm just gonna just wing it with a little talking. And if you want, you can go to the Facebook page and just kind of correlate along with that. But we do have the video posted up on Facebook as well. So those who want to go to the videos and see them, it's edited, so it's a little bit condensed down now from the previous ones, which was raw, just posted. But nonetheless, those flies really made a huge difference putting those slotted parts in there. And it has elevated that whole class to a different level. Um, and ironically, I didn't get much of a chance to practice. I only went one round, 2 minutes on each lane with trying switching between three cars. So when I got to the race, I was just just putzing along and just having fun. But somehow I kind of hooked up on with my fly Ferrari and won a heat. And I was just shocked, keeping it in the track. And I did come out for a fraction of a second, one part, but ended up winning the heat, and that was really an exuberating feeling. Exactly. So those that want to track it, us race number 2. And it's Heat 17. If you go to the Facebook page, you can actually go straight to those heats. So anyway, I thought it was great. So I'm probably going to be out. Well, I'll hear from my doctor, but I'll probably be out for the next 2 races at least. But I'll see how things go. And but I'd like to doing a video coverage for the FAR Club. It's been pretty exciting. Anyway, that's all I have to report for right now.
All right, good stuff. Recover soon.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other hands, so the floor is open. Any slot car chat of any kind. I'll just kind of blather until somebody else decides to interrupt me, which should be very easy for pretty much anybody else here. I'm working on a 3D model. I wonder if I can probably find it real quick. Our own club version of an F1 calendar 3D print that showed the track design of all the F1 tracks and what order. Yeah, here it is. All right, give me a sec to share this. This is what I'm going to mimic using the actual track plan shapes of all of the tracks in our club. So I'm currently working on designing all the little squigglies. Squigglies in a big grid is basically what it's going to be. Not as easy as you might think, even for a CAD wizard such as myself, to get a good plan view of every track in the club and then convert it to usable line art for then to be converted to a printable thing. But I can show you how far I've gotten.
Hey, Greg, if you print them big enough, you could make them into cookie cutters.
True. I don't know of any cookie that will retain that shape and be good tasting cookie. I guess
How about
maybe
waffles?
some kind of a waffle iron. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna make a waffle iron.
Well, no, but to John's point, you make the waffle first and then you cut it.
There you go. Yeah. So
Exactly.
And then, so this is where I am so far. Give that a sec to show up. Hopefully you guys can see that. I've got most of the plan views of most of the tracks because most of them are plastic tracks that I already have track plans of. And so it's just a matter of manipulating some things and then doing some conversions and then doing more manipulations and things.
That's pretty cool. Could you also do like a 3D bust of the owner as well?
No.
Probably put people off racing there or something.
You'd need
There
a
are
3D
limits.
scanner and then a whole lot of work because, as we've talked about before, the technology is not yet scan and print. Maybe in a decade it'll be scan and print. But yeah, so it's basically just going to be the track plan squiggle and then track name, and then in the middle I'm going to have EMSA and our logo and stuff like that. So that's the plan. I'll show you guys again when it's done, which hopefully will be in probably next week, because the tricky part, as I was talking about, is the 3 tracks that are not plastic tracks. I have to basically completely draw them from scratch from poorly angled photos. Like, oh, here's a photo from way over here. Okay, well, that over there is definitely not that small. It's far away. It's not that small, right? So changing perspective in CAD is not that easy. So yeah.
Any luck of using what you've already done to try and manipulate it for those wooden tracks that would save you some time?
You know what I might do is just mimic the track in plastic and just say, you know what, good enough. You recognize.
I was going to say that's, yeah, especially as you reduce it, you probably won't notice the difference. Yeah.
And I'll put the name of the track under it so people will say, oh, that's that track. As long as it's close enough, that might be what I end up doing.
Hit them with some gold Krylon.
Hit the whole thing with gold Krylon. In fact, that's exactly what I did for a 3D print a long time ago for a friend. I printed a little tchotchke, and it needed to be gold, so I just hit it with gold Krylon, and it stuck for future reference.
Cool.
But yeah, that's a project I'm working on. Next. All right, hope that phone call worked out for Don.
I've just got a question for Jim. Did I see a video on preparing a Carrera Corvette on your feed this morning or today?
On what?
The Carrera Corvette.
No.
Oh, it must have been someone else then. I saw somebody put up I thought it was a bit unusual for you to do it, but sure it was you. But anyway, yeah, there's a thing on YouTube this morning about race prepping a Carrera Corvette.
I did one a long time ago. Yeah, probably a couple of years ago. That might have popped up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that all right. I'll have a look at that. So, yeah, the C8 Corvette. Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
it's not
popped in my
recent.
feed this morning. I'll have to go back through your videos and have a look. All right, thanks for that.
Hey, John, how's that Porsche 935 project coming?
Well, you know what? I actually got into the workshop. By the way, Mike, thanks for giving me your cold. I really appreciate it.
Through the mail.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, it's coming along actually. I've got what I wanted to do was get different widths of Tamiya tape. So I was planning to go tomorrow to local hobby shop to make sure I got the right widths, because that's what I'm going to use to get the stripes down, put it around the car, and then mask that.
Your story has potential. I think I'll accept it for now.
What about the other Porsche?
My wife knows I'm really ill because I gave up free ice time today. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is pretty sick.
Oh yeah. No, well, look at the size of this. When it gets stuffed, oh my gosh, look out.
All right, Mr. Bellamoni has put up his hand.
Yeah, so we recently, let me see, let me figure out, oops, I thought I had it. Trying to share the screen. There we go. Wait a second, there we go. So our local track is called.
Still a no. That's still a no. You're not sharing anything.
Oh, okay, let's see what I'm doing here. I'm obviously, wait a second.
Share, choose the thing, and then share, and that usually gets it going.
Are we there? No.
Not yet.
Hold on.
Now we got something. For
Okay. Okay.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Okay, so we did our annual race at Zomax Raceway.
Now this is the first I've heard of Zomax, so you're going to have to give us a little background information here.
Well, it's a 4-lane wood track in my friend Ross's basement.
Nice.
And we've been racing there for 10 plus years.
Nicer.
It's a lightly glued track, so we race on foam. And well, Ross is pretty much a flexi guy. Most everybody else is 1/32 scale stuff. And so, you know, he's a real good host about hosting the events and so forth. Let me get back to where I need to be. So anyways, we had our, show you a picture of the track here. I need to go to the homepage, but
that's good enough. That gets us.
Yeah. So anyways, what we did this year was we ran Revo slots and we ran GT1s on the outer 2 lanes. And we ran GT2s on the inner 2 lanes, and it made for an interesting afternoon of racing. We run the cars stock with weight. We use Revo slot foam, and basically about the only thing we do to the car is we allow you to run the nylon pinion of the same tooth count, 12 tooth. It just quiets the cars down a little bit. And it's a lot of fun. We have a good time with these cars. And like I said, other than running foam and changing the pinion, we run them we run them exactly stock. So
are you running typical 1/24 foam, or are you running Revo foam?
Revo foam. Yeah.
No additives, just the track glue.
Just the track glue, correct. Yep. So, but let me. There's Ross finished in 2nd place, so that was his GT1 and his Marcos that he painted up like Smokey Eunuch. He's a Smokey Eunuch fan. And let me see here. So it gives you an idea. It's a 94-foot track, 94 feet long, and it gives you an idea of some of the lap times, which are pretty competitive.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty quick. Steve H there, he's a new racer. He's really come on strong. And matter of fact, he competed on the team that won the 24-hour Michigan race this year. And I'm not they won by about 200 plus laps. They were running a brushless setup this year, and it was a Scale Auto Peugeot that was the car they ran, the hypercar, and they did really well. But Steve's really come on strong. I mean, he was really committed to racing. I can tell you that. He's been kicking our butt, basically. But we use Lap Master, so, you know, a lot of nice stats we get from that. And you can see Steve had fast lap on every lane. You know, he was really quick. So
by multiple tenths.
Yeah.
2 tenths, 1/10, 1.5.
Yeah. What's funny is they put spaces in my name, and so like when you do a fast lap, it goes fast lap BOB. So we're just having some fun. So, anyways, so, but yeah, so just thought I'd share that. It was a good time. So
yeah, that's awesome.
And by the way, I used my new controller, Greg, the Solage.
Nice.
And boy, just felt right at home pretty quick with it. It's got so many nice features. So
did you use the pre-braking option?
I did. But, you know, all these little things, playing with the curve and like setting the curves really easy on that controller compared to if you want to fine tune it compared to the slot. It's an amazing piece of equipment. Really nice. So anyways, there we have it.
If you want to dig up a more overall picture of that track, I'd definitely like to see it.
Sure, I can do that. Let me go back to the Facebook page. Give me just a second. Yeah, let's see here.
Got plenty of time. Apparently nobody else wants to say anything.
Yeah.
Chickens.
While he just looks at that picture.
Okay, so I've got
talking. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Wayne.
I noticed on Facebook today that there's been a production change or an aftermarket spur gear. I'm not sure exactly which it is. I think it might be a production change to the spur gears on the Revo slot cars. Apparently, they're notorious for being noisy and rough and out of round and not straight and one thing and another. But it's easily identifiable because the new gear has a ring of circular holes where the old gear had 3 long slots in its radius. So watch out for that coming. It may improve your slot. It may improve your your Revo slot cars.
Well,
Yeah, I saw I saw a Facebook feed this morning that showed that new gear, Wayne.
I bet it's the
Be
same
interesting to see.
I bet it's about the same weight, but holes will be more structurally sound than other.
Yes, it won't bend as easily because it's not got the slots, I think is what you're trying to get to. Yes, yeah, it's a fundamentally better looking gear, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So can you see the track, guys?
Yes, we can. It's good.
Yeah. So
there's a name for that, I'm sure. I don't know what it is.
It's a hill climb.
A hill climb,
yes,
yeah.
It's basically a hill climb. Yes, correct.
Is that Ogilvy or?
I don't know. He picked it up a number of years ago. I don't know who built it, but and originally it was set up to run left-handed, and right where you see the donut was the start-finish line, and you would start left and go down the straight and come back around. He changed it so we're down the long straightaway and then in front of the driver's station and down. So, but it had SRT as the timing software to give you an idea how old it was when he got it.
Is that the DOS program that was?
Correct. Yeah. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we upgraded to Lapmaster, and let me tell you, you can see that that long straightaway underneath the. It's really hard to get underneath there to connect the timing software. It was a real struggle to get underneath there, but we did it. So, but we have a good time. And
so where is start finish now?
Say again?
Whereabouts is start finish now?
Well, let's see. It's right here behind. Well, let's see. It's
the dead strip.
The dead strip's here.
Okay.
So the start finish line is. I guess you could see the mouse moving.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So it's on my screen. It's right behind all of you. So I guess it'd have to change. But yeah, it's right as you come up onto the main straightaway there. And when we installed the Lapmaster, it's not on this track, but we broke the track up into 100 segments.
Oh yeah.
So the Lapmaster timing is more accurate. So you can't. They're not there in this picture, but there's markers for every section of the track, which really makes a difference when it comes to a close race. And so we also added that recently. So
Jeremy wants to know if you guys have ever considered racing for distance rather than time. I think that's how he described it, right? Because you guys race for a time, and then this guy's in section 23 and that guy's in section 42, and that's how you determine who is ahead and whatever.
Well, this was actually a bracket race using laps, and so we basically, I can't, so the final race was 100 laps. So whoever hit 100 laps shut off the race. But we did keep track of the time, lap times, and so forth also.
Okay.
So we did it was a lap race.
Mm-hmm. The first guy to cross 100 stopped the race, but everybody else stopped on the track, and so their positions were recorded by where they were on the track.
That's correct.
Not them being allowed to finish their current lap to see how far behind they were.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And just so you know, Greg, when the power goes, well, basically the track is powered. The track and the driver stations are powered the same. So when the power goes off, you lose power at both areas. And the controller, it loses its brake function. So if you're flying down that straightaway, you hit the wall.
Or you coast really nicely.
Hopefully. Just depends.
For us hard body 32 to 132nd scale non-blue track racers, I'll take a coast any day of the week.
Yeah, exactly. But so anyway, so it was a good time. So there you have it.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
It's still a running joke with my group that because there's a battery. I mean, with my previous controller before there was actually a battery, like literally in the controller. There was no battery in the controller, and they kept always making this joke about how there must be a battery in my controller because of the coast that I would get when the power cuts.
Right.
The slotted controller was one of the few that did not hit the brakes when the power cuts, and so you would get a long, long coast. And so there had been several times where I would gain position because of the coast. And that's what I had been using for years. And what I started racing with the club using the slotted controller. So I was the guy always getting the longest coast. And now I've got a controller that does the same thing, but it actually has a battery.
Right.
So
it would be interesting. Yeah, it would be interesting to know that if a track has a track scenario where the track is always powered, but the driver stations turn off, if you would still lose the brake function with that controller we're using. I don't know how that would work.
You would lose the brakes with any controller if the power cut between the driver station and the track, depending on how the relay is wired into the track. But presumably, pretty much, because it's only 2 wires going from the controllers to the track. So any break in that would create a completely open circuit, which would mean that all the cars would coast as long as possible, regardless of what kind of controller was hooked up to it.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that is because the guys that use the Tefalcos don't seem to lose that brake when the power goes off.
A lot of guys don't like it, especially with your kind of racing when the cars are going so darn fast.
Right.
Yeah. And in fact, the SCP, the SCP controllers, I'm not sure it's actually in the high amp cartridge that you guys would be using, but the regular cartridge has a jumper that either activates, or you remove the jumper to have no brakes, or you put in the jumper to have brakes when the power cuts.
Right.
So they had that option back in the early days of the slotted controller because there were people who did not like coasting at the end when the power cut. But yeah, it looks like they decided that most people want the coast. But yeah, like you said, for your racing, a lot of people don't want the coast because the cars are going so fast.
I've been beaten by the coast.
Yeah. And I've lost because of the coast as well. Not as often as I've gained position, but there have been times where the coast walls me, like it's happening to Bob, and then somebody else, coasts ahead of me because they.
Right.
When the power cut, I was at full speed near the end of the straight, versus them coasting into the turn. I coasted through the turn, but most of the time it's somewhere in the middle where I'm coasting, not right at the end of the straight. But yeah,
back in the days before electronic controllers with the wet wound Palmer type controls. As soon as the power went off, we used to put our triggers on full on.
Yep.
And the car would just coast down the track.
And some of the guys were good enough to know to be so quick on the trigger that they'd be able to do that. Most of the guys that I race with don't have that kind of reaction speed. So some of the guys with the alligator clip connections would hold on to that red clip. And as soon as they think the race is going to end within a few seconds, they'd go ahead and unhook the red, which is brakes for most tracks. So they'd still have power, but they wouldn't have brakes. And so at the very end of the heat, they'd pull that off and let it coast. hopefully
I'm just curious, why do you guys still continue with the alligator clips?
I hate them with a passion.
Yeah.
But
we
there are
use
still
a 3-pin female plug.
Yeah, years and years ago, we had so many people burning out brake pots on their professor motor controllers from hooking up wrong that we basically said, look, we should do this, right? And so we basically all, most of us added XLR jacks to the track and added XLR plugs to our controllers. But most of those tracks, any track that was around before that still has the alligators. And any guy who doesn't want to fuck up their controller by putting an XLR on it still uses the alligators. So there's still guys that use them.
Well, they still do that. The electric dreams, don't they? I think I saw them.
Yes.
Yeah, and I burnt out my controller.
Yeah, we actually used this probably a bit crazy, but we use the electric GPO plugs.
Yeah.
So the track's got a male plug.
Yeah.
What we call over here a caravan plug. They use them for connecting up caravans or trailers, I suppose you call them over there, to power supplies at campsites. We just plug a female plug into that. As long as you got it wired up properly, you've got no problem.
And as long as nobody's going to be running around trying to plug it into things that they shouldn't plug it into, it's fine.
Well, it makes lane changes a lot quicker.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, just plug. Pull.
Boop, boop. Yep. Yeah. Lots of reasons to use some kind of 3 connector plug that just goes in one way, can't be done wrong, and pulls out when you want to. XLR, what you guys use, what they use in the UK, whatever it is. Alligator plug, alligator connections should just disappear.
Go away. They should just go away.
Forever and ever.
I've used 2 types. Quite liked the headphone jack, the stereo headphone jack, the 6.3mm headphone.
No, and do you know why?
I don't know, but we were using it for HO racing, and that's not got a brake wire.
Okay, well maybe that's not that big of a deal. But generally speaking, if you have a live track and a 3 wire connection, when you put that in or pull it out, those connectors are touching the other connectors.
Potential shorts. Yeah.
So never.
That was the HO club. The other one, as you know, is the 3-pin plug that we use. That used to be. It's 5 amp capable at 240 volts. It used to be the mains plug.
I was gonna say it was a mains plug. Yeah. But you don't use that as mains plugs anymore.
No.
No.
You can still buy them because they're used in other certain applications. I don't really know exactly where, but yeah. Old houses, I imagine. Very old.
And old appliances. Yep. All right, I guess we're just a bunch of old fuddy-duddies.
On the news from our camp, which is myself, Gio, and Yona, we've recently dispatched our designs to the 3D printing factory, so we are awaiting delivery of some 3D printed parts. We've got lots of bits, all sorts of bits.
Who is the 3D printing factory?
Weird.
Is it a person or an actual business?
It's a business. It's one of those Shapeways style companies, shall we call it?
Yeah.
It's just one of those online ordering options. Yeah. So that's the order's in. It's being printed. It's being dispatched. We await the delivery next week, and then we've got the distribution of getting some into New Zealand, some into the UK, and then we'll have something to actually start preparing for the Paul Ricard 24 hours in June.
Are you going to do like last time? Basically, everybody prepare their own car and.
No, we didn't do that last time.
Well, you did the chassis, and Una did.
Well, I say what happened last time is we had 2 people prepare body shells and 3 people prepared chassis. Or no, 2. Yeah, 2. But we had different chassis options. We had something that was basically NSR based and something that was basically a slotted configuration. And we chose the weekend before. Now, we know at the moment, I don't think we plan to gather the weekend before the event. We are only taking one chassis design, although we have got alternative motor pod designs to go in that chassis. So there'll still be several. We're hoping to get opportunity to do some running at a couple of places on plastic tracks before we turn up for the event, but they won't be Ninko. They should still give us an idea because one of them is Gio's home circuit.
Yeah.
So when he gets the chassis, the motor pods, we're going to start running. He's going to start running through a process of establishing which motor we want to use and in which configuration, because we've got the option to do angle winders and side winders. And we've got 2 motors to choose from. We think we know which one we want to use, but we still need to listen to what the track testing tells us.
Are you guys, so at the Paul Ricard, what class are you doing?
Hypercar.
Okay.
With a scale auto Cadillac body shell. Gio's currently very deep in the process of trying to achieve a chrome surface finish on his paintwork.
Oh.
Yeah. He's chosen something it apparently appears to be quite difficult. Yona's also trying to do the same thing, and the chat recently has been about which processes, which combinations, which color, which paint to choose, how to lay it, what to put on, what to put on first, where the decals are going to go. Are they going to go on the outside last thing, or are they going to go underneath a clear coat, etc., etc., etc. And I don't really know what the outcome is.
The word is escaping me, but there's a competition for the beautiful
concourse. Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
If he gets a good chrome, that'll.
I'm calling it chrome because that's what it looks like to me. The team that we're trying to build a replica of, have 2 in the World Endurance IMSA and World Endurance Championship. One or the other, or probably both. I'm not exactly certain. And one of them is a blue with a chrome finish, and one of them is a silver with a chrome finish, or it might just be chrome. For me, it doesn't matter. You could paint the damn thing silver and let's go. It would look right enough. But
it's basically the mirror effect.
It's the mirror, yeah. Even the blue one is kind of chromy in a way. It's like translucent, very, very, very shiny. I don't. It's a paint. I don't know if I know the proper word to describe it. But if anyone wants to look it up, just Google Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac Hypercar.
Okay.
Did you see the new hypercar that Jonas said he's going to try to do?
Jonas got a body shell. He's trying to do. He's pretty handy with an airbrush. He's trying to do one. Yeah, that's not it.
He said today that he could probably do this, and that's the new Hyundai.
That's a body shell. That's a different car altogether. Yes, he could. Yeah, he has discussed being able to do that or wanting to do that.
That's the Hyundai that was just announced.
Yeah. It's the left and right one. We did the red one at Suzuka this year.
Yeah, they're not really making the shine obvious.
They're not, but in the action shots that you might find of the car, it really does under the lights, and such as Daytona in the night. They've got that deep chromy kind of look.
Okay, I heard of that. You can kind of see it in these pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we get the idea.
There it
Yeah.
is. The deck. Oh, that's trading paints, but that's the Dex one.
I believe Dex is the decals that we've had recreated. We had to ask for those to be manufactured, and luckily we know the right guy. Was done the CAD, done the scaling. It's not a very complex decal set because there's not a lot on there. You know, all the Cadillacs start black at the back and then change towards one color or the other at the front, and then they've got a few sponsor decals. And even the Whelan red one was not very complex in the decals department.
I know that Geo had been experimenting with figuring out how to get that mirror effect. Not definitely prior to this. I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was definitely more than several months ago.
Yeah, I think it's been under discussion for some time. I don't know if there's a product out there that just does it. I don't know.
No,
But
there's not. The ones that claim to do it don't. So basically the experimenting that he was doing was, what additional work is necessary to get it to look like that. And still, take a decal and, take a top coat and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So if he's successful, then friggin' yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
even the big companies that do Slotted got dinged for theirs, their paint flaking off. Scalextra got dinged for their paint flaking off. It's just obviously not an easy thing to do, especially at least in mass quantities.
Oh, I didn't know they'd had a go.
Oh yeah, Slotted a while ago with one of their LMP cars had the gold leaf, gold foil kind of thing going on.
Okay.
It was not. It was good generally speaking, but it had issues, right? So if somebody had one that was flaking off or whatever, then they'd be like all mad and get a replacement and stuff. I'm pretty sure that happened with both Slotted and Scalextric at some point in the past.
Scalextric did a pretty good job on their Janetta LNP car.
More recently, yeah.
Yeah, I love those foil or candy over chrome are really nice looking paint jobs.
So we're underway. We're underway on both fronts. Body shell, the body shell is pretty, buy it, lighten it, create a vac form interior, or purchase one. I'm not sure exactly what route Geo's taken with that. He's into the experimental of not on the body shell yet, I think, but experimenting with how to achieve the paint. When that's done, it'll be lighting kits, kits. That's the correct word. And then the chassis will be on its way to him probably a week's time. And likewise myself, and then I don't know how much of it I'll be able to share, but I'll certainly get underway with preparing the rolling chassis. I'm hoping that by the time the UK Slot Festival takes place, May 11, 12, I think that is, I might have something with a body shell on it that I can take to the show and take the opportunity, should it arise, and I think it will, to run a car around on some polycar track.
Yeah, but Paul Ricard is Ninco, right?
Polycar is Polycar.
Paul Ricard is Ninco.
Paul Ricard, sorry. Yeah, is Ninco. Yeah. It's like if Ninco disappears, what are all these suspension screws and springs actually for? Because I don't know of any of the track surface, plastic or otherwise, that actually requires it, apart from Ninco.
Scalextric isn't as bad as Ninco, but it still benefits.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
makes a difference.
Yeah.
That's the other one, is it? Scale Electric Sport.
Yes, Electric and Inco, yeah.
You
Because
see,
they both use polypropylene. Electric, Classic,
Yeah.
and Sport, and Ninco use polypropylene, which is
Yeah,
very
yeah.
flexible. Yeah.
Personally, my Scale Electric Sport is extremely well preserved. I won't accept bad track pieces. They're just, I won't have them.
Yeah.
So
But if it doesn't
whenever
go,
mine's down, it's really quite smooth and it feels smooth and it's like, oh gosh, this is so different to Ninko for me.
as long as it doesn't go through any significant, temperature fluctuations, like really, really hot and
Yeah. I've seen it laid. I've seen Scale Electric Sport laid outside, and it wouldn't maintain continuity on a summer day.
Yeah, no.
No, it was shocking. Yeah.
Yeah, remember James May?
Oh, that's a class example, isn't it? Where he laid the Scale Electric track around Brooklands. Yeah.
Yeah. How many batteries did they have to hook up to keep those cars going around?
Ah, jeez.
Probably it was new.
And they were moving them around. They were chasing them, chasing around. Yeah. I know two people that went there. Only one of which I've ever